Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel. I do have me some coffee. I just made me a little bit to get me through the evening. Now it is probably about 6:30, but it is decaf. I did actually go out get me some decaf so I could have a little bit when I'm recording my episodes. And it is Sunday after. Well, we didn't have D&D today. We had board game day. And so now I am here recording with you all as we work through a few books. So let us dive into If We Survive This by Raquel Marie. Now this is expected publication on June 17th of 2025, and it is approximately 336 pages in hardcover. I had the audio narration, which was really well done and quite terrifying in my personal opinion. So let us dive into the summary. The Walking Dead meets Yellow Jackets in If We Survive This, a tense and emotional young adult horror novel from the award-winning author Raquel Marie, about a teen girl leading a group of survivors on a perilous journey during the apocalypse. Flora Braddock Paz is not the girl who survives, a colorful creative who spends as much time fearing death as she does trying to hide that fear from her loved ones. She's always considered herself weak, but half a year into the global outbreak of a rabies mutation that transforms people into violent zombie-like rabbits, she and her older brother Kane are still alive. With their mom dead and dad missing, their LA suburb left desolate, they form a new plan to venture out to the secluded Northern California cabin they vacationed in growing up. Their best chance at a safe haven and maybe seeing their dad again. The dangers of the world have changed, but so has Flora. Still, their journey up the state is complicated by encounters with familiar faces, new allies, hidden truths, and painful memories of the family's final time making this trip last year. And for Flora, one thing inevitably remains. No matter how far you run, death is never far behind. It falls into the genres of horror, young adult, lesbian, queer, LGBT, thriller, and dystopia. And I do think I said the expected publication is June 17th of 2025. Now, this one did kind of hit, I would say, I don't want to say close to home for me, but in a level of familiarity for me because I did live in LA for a little while. And this does kind of start off by taking place in an LA suburb, and some of the flashbacks do reference some LA locations that I was also familiar with, so that was actually pretty cool as well. But diving into the summary, we kind of immediately meet Flora, who seems to be a bit of a fighter. Now, the thing is that she didn't really think she was a fighter. She really hates to identify herself in any real particular way. Now, she does identify herself as a lesbian, and she kind of recognizes that in herself. Now, she doesn't really want to say that she has a crush on the people that she has a crush on, but she does. There are a couple individuals throughout this book, and that she seems to like, so to speak. But now her brother Kane did date one of these girls, and Flora seems to think, well, I don't want to say that Flora thinks that she has a better chance, but I think she probably does. I think Flora has a better chance with the girl than maybe Kane did, because Kane was only dated the girl for like a month, and because Kane and the girl were like best friends for a while, so they tried dating and it didn't really work. But Kane does discover his own kind of sexuality later on in the book. But Flora doesn't really want to go to therapy, and we do kind of learn this through the session of the book, because there are some buzzwords and some keywords that she would have to confront about herself that she feels are quite scary. And some of those words are OCD and anxiety. She's not OCD like washing her hands sort of things, but there was a point in this particular book where she had gone to a fashion camp for a period of time. And during the time at her fashion camp, she got it in her head that because she had changed plans and not done the thing that she had always done, that her family was in danger. And that because of her, she may never see her family again. And so she ended up writing a letter almost saying like she was sorry that if she never saw them again, that she was apologizing. Now, I do believe someone took this letter the wrong way, that they read this more as a self-exit letter, and to put this in more of a YouTube-friendly terms. And it was not. It was her in getting into her own brain, going through that cycle, and thinking that she was causing this to happen when it wasn't happening. And it was just so very interesting and real to see how she got in her head in those ways. I don't think we see a lot of books written in these perspectives, which was very interesting, especially to be an apocalyptic type book. Now, this is really only about 6 or so months into the apocalypse. Flora's dad has left her and her brother at their house, and I guess they had kind of been holed up in the attic, where you can kind of let the ladder down and you can pull it back up to kind of for safety. And Flora has been going out, and she's actually apparently gotten pretty good at ending the life of these rabbits. Now, are you okay, little Leo? I hear you over there. You just had dinner. I think he just wants attention. So I'm going to get through this episode and then I'll go give him a little bit of attention. But she's gotten pretty good at kind of distancing herself from seeing them as people and kind of separating that. But she also kind of has this, I don't know, I guess a little bit of a death fixation, I guess maybe an interesting way to put it. The book does a fantastic job of kind of explaining a little bit about the way she views the world and like in general. It's very, very interesting. The dynamic between Kane and Flora is really good. Now, Kane is the older brother, and it does seem as though before this apocalypse, before this mutation, before things break bad, they do kind of butt heads a little bit, but Kane, being the older brother, does kind of act fairly protective of Flora. She really does try to keep this OCD anxiety about herself hidden from others. She doesn't do the greatest job, I don't think, because I do think other people see at least glimpses of it. They may not be fully aware of it, but they do see a good portion of it. And then after things break bad and now Kane and Flora are by themselves, they need to leave the house in order to try to find somewhere they can actually survive for a period of time. There are points where Flora does some internal spiraling, where she literally starts to kind of get in her own head, gets in her own way. It is very easy to just like get consumed in this book, and I felt like I was really, really drawn into this book so very quickly. But we do actually meet a couple people. Biscuit is a puppy that comes along. Loved it. Now, I will say the puppy does survive, just letting you know. And we have another individual. I do believe they're a trans individual, Adon, and June. And there is another individual that they meet when they're by a lake. I forget her name, but she was a really good character as well. This book is heart-wrenching. It is very hard. It is not an easy read. It's a captivating read, because you do get a lot of raw emotion, especially since we do get the perspective of Flora, who sees things in a very, in a, I would say, for some people, writers write in a filtered sort of way. And maybe you understand what that means, maybe you don't. For this particular writer to write from this perspective, from the perspective of a character who seems to present with OCD and anxiety, she writes in a very raw way, which makes things feel more dramatic and dynamic. You are going to have a story that is going to more accurately and less filtered probably portray things as they are rather than be so foggy with a cloud of haze across them, so to speak. Because I do think many times authors will try to, I don't know, I don't want to say sugarcoat, but prevent the reader from having to suffer through the things that the characters are going through in the story. However, in this book, the gore that the characters are experiencing is the gore that we have to see. The suffering that the characters go through is the suffering that the reader has to read. It feels very one-to-one when we are there with the characters. I like zombie apocalypse stories. I do, especially when they feel fairly unique. There are aspects of this that feel fairly normal. You've got rabbits, they're runners, they're strongish. Well, they are equivalent to their strength of who they were prior to their infection. So you've got some that, like, if you have a week old granny, she's going to be fairly weak when she turns. If you've got a fairly strong muscular man who turns, he's going to be fairly strong muscular zombie. So there you go. But I do think that this is just, there's a lot of things in it that worked well. So there you go. There's lots of blood and guts, lots of gore, lots of tension. Not everybody is going to make it to the end, just by the way, just letting you know. Viscera galore, possibly losing some limbs. But, you know, I think at one point in the book they do mention that they wonder how many people have survived. And I think it's really hard to probably tell. These are kids, these are teenagers, and they ballpark, they're like maybe half. And I'm just like wondering, how would they even know? How would they be able to guess how many people have survived? And I do wonder, I'm like what is the level of ability to communicate with other states, other areas? Like, if we're in and around LA, or just, let's just say California, how do we communicate with other parts of the country in general? So just kind of curious about that. I only watched a little bit of the first couple seasons of Walking Dead. Thought the first couple seasons were pretty good. Just didn't have HBO to finish watching much of it after that. But thought it was pretty good. Hey, I was a big Resident Evil fan, especially when it came to the video games. Love watching playthroughs of the video games. I know it's not the same, but still loved it. So yeah, I do like a lot of zombie-based things. So that's one of the reasons I picked this up. I wanted kind of a YA perspective on it to see what the spin on this one could be. And I think the perspective is the spin on this one. I don't think we frequently get this type of perspective. It is very unique, and I thought it was quite solid and quite well done because we we frequently get the the hero who wants to save the day, and this is a girl who really kind of forgets that she doesn't have to save the day. She doesn't want to be the one to save the day. She doesn't know how to not be the one. She really, that's part of her neurodivergency, is that she actually kind of can't stop at times. And I, again, the neurodivergency of her character is a great perspective to do this from. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. If you like the summary, I hope you'll go out and pick it up. I give it a solid 4 stars. It's one that I was glad to pick up. I kind of wish it had come out in October. I think it would have been a really fantastic kind of spooky, I don't want to say spooky holiday, but spooky Halloween. Definitely give it to me when the spooky season's out. That's a good time for this one. I think I needed that time. But until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, I hope you will. And with all of that being said, thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.